If even part of what you learned today about Hillary and Bill is true, they're done for. How is Bill Gates's gonorrhea connected to Maxwell's party? Who was transporting girls from Krasnodar for hookups? Did she fall out of the window herself? Ruslana Korshinova? Not in Moscow, right in Manhattan in New York. How much did Bill Gates pay his wife for her silence, ladies and gentlemen? He paid a lot, I'll tell you a bit later. And of course, what does all this mean for Hillbill and Ricochet? It's usually interesting for Bulba, right? Yes, but let's start with Benghazi. Tell me, how is Benghazi in 2012 directly related? You'll find out soon. It's all such a wonderful tangle, really. It all started with the attack on the United States ambassador, who was doing a bit of arms trading on Hillary Clinton's orders. And when he was attacked, Washington refused to send a support team, even though there were actually two of them waiting. On the night of September 11th to 12th, 2012 Muslim militants attacked a United States compound in Benghazi and then a secret facility, they call it the CIA, also there, I think, in the suburbs of Benghazi. As a result, United States Ambassador Christopher Stevens and 3 other Americans who were guarding him, guarding that very facility, were killed. Hillary Clinton, who was the Secretary of State at that time, did not pick up the continuously ringing phone, later stating that she had taken a sleeping pill and did not hear the call. So today in the United States, if the Secretary of State is asleep or something happens to them, or they have constipation or any number of other things, drank, yes, she drank, which happens with Secretaries of State. In the days of Hillary Clinton definitely did. Yes, people die just because she has constipation or a hangover. Today, the current United States Attorney General, PAM, Bandy announced the capture of one of the organizers of the 2012 attack. And Hillary, along with her buddy who hates her with a burning hatred, named Barack Hussein Obama, immediately went into a hysterical fit. And there's a reason for that.
Today, I am proud to announce that the FBI has arrested one of the key participants in the Benghazi attack, Zubair Abu Khair. He arrived at Andrews Air Force Base at 3 a.m. today. He is in our custody, and he was met by Director Patel and United States Attorney Janine Pira.
So Zubair al-Baghosh has been caught, and he is in the United States, and if he isn't singing already, he will be singing like a young canary.
Hillary Clinton.
As everyone knows, it was once said about Benghazi. What difference does it make at this point? But for Donald Trump, it matters a lot.
They were working behind the scenes to capture a certain Zubair al-Baghosh Khair, Director Andrews. He was involved in killing Americans in Benghazi. And one of the things that amazes me is that America always comes, no matter how long it takes to achieve justice. But when you say Ore, never forget, America did not forget. And now this man will stand trial.
Why did it take so long to catch him? Or maybe they weren't even trying to catch him. I wonder why.
I didn't realize until John Redcliffe and Kash Patel took their positions that was 14 years. Think about how many FBI directors we've had and about the CIA directors. But there's a person, Johnny was in Congress when this was happening and Kash worked in Congress. So I'm not at all surprised that they didn't forget, and I'm not surprised that it was really a high priority. I think they realize the limitations of what Congress can do, but there are no limitations when it comes to law enforcement. So I think we were really lucky to have these two who truly never forgot because they lived through it when it was happening.
The leadership of law enforcement agencies under Obama, under Biden, by the way, those plants that were put in place for Trump, meaning Trump 45, didn't want to catch either, neither Zubair nor the others.
Charlie Daniels, when he was alive, posted this every day, and his son still does it today in memory of his father. And this was constantly being shared there on social media. And seeing this happen, it's really great to see that we're still doing it. And I knew that, I always believed in President Trump and his leadership that he set up with Janine Pero, Kesh Patel, and Bondi, and doing what is right, investigating and doing everything possible to hold everyone involved accountable.
Or anyone on your team? In Libya, they knew that this news was about to come out.
No, I got a call yesterday or late at night and was told that something was going to happen that would probably make me very, very happy. And that narrowed it down to a few things it could be. And I was very glad to see what happened this morning.
By the way, this was said by one of those who, back in 2012, rushed to save our guys even though the order never came. Unfortunately, they waited too long, expecting the order to arrive any minute. For Hillary, this is a terrible blow. In 2008, she released a video about Obama. The message was, "What if the phone rings in the White House at 3 a.m.? We chose Obama, the phone rings, and Obama, probably due to inexperience or carelessness." She didn't want to say that he hates the United States of America, so she avoided that topic. Yeah, so he won't answer it, like, who cares what's going on? Who does it matter to? Even if it's something at the level of national security. This video, which, let me remind you, Hillary made to warn that Obama is not a suitable president for us, actually ended up backfiring painfully on Hillary Rodham Clinton.
It's 3 a.m. right now and your children are safe and asleep, but there's a phone in the White House and it's ringing. Something is happening in the world. Your vote will choose who responds. Someone experienced with world leaders, the military, and ready to lead in dangerous times. It's 3 a.m. Your children are safe and asleep. Who do you want to answer the phone?
I'm Hillary Clinton and approve this message.
Isn't it ironic? Hillary didn't answer the call. This was the very call at 2 or 3 a.m. from her staff, who were in danger and died because she didn't give the order to send help to save them. Why didn't she allow it? The thing is, it would have become clear that she and Barack Hussein were making tanks there in Benghazi, that they weren't engaged in diplomacy there, and we would have found out what exactly her representative was doing there. She preferred the death of her. Well, they say he was someone close to her, an acquaintance, a friend, although she seems to have no trouble with these friends. So many so-called friends died around her, but it doesn't matter. She preferred the death of someone close to her and his security detail over the publicity of her and Obama's actions. So don't bother. That means those who attacked and killed the American ambassador for the first time in American history weren't even investigated, let alone punished. And now we might find out why. Oh, the horror. Why is it such a horror for Obama and Hillary, of course? Why didn't they look for them and punish them? By the way, Bill might even be happy if she gets killed or put in jail. I mean, can you imagine living in the same house with Hillary? It's a disaster. Who could handle that? And then Maxwell with her, confessions, so she'll be testifying remotely. Remote connection, they're afraid she'll get killed. They're keeping her somewhere remote and won't say where. They claim she's there, but there's suspicion she's actually in a different location. And then she'll answer questions from the committee members in Congress, the ones overseeing the government, who will then interrogate, a few days after that, Bill and Hillary. Russian trace. Former Russian model Lana Pozhidaeva was hired by Ghislaine Maxwell, basically by Epstein, as the main recruiter for the Russian market of young prostitutes. So she flew to Samara, Omsk, Chelyabinsk, and other cities to look for suitable candidates. So, well, according to the stories, any girl there would immediately agree, but they needed to choose the worthy ones. Lana and Ghislaine organized dinners for the girls they liked, so to speak. They called them models. They would pick the ones they liked and then make their choice. So, candidates for prostitution in the upper echelons of power in the United States of America, and to put it broadly, all over the globe. In 2018, Lana organized one of the most popular and most notorious sex parties for Epstein. So, on his own island, where models of exceptional beauty were brought, she chose them herself. She claimed she had good taste, and everyone said she had excellent taste. As for the young girls, Kazakhstan or Kazakhstan, I don't know. A Russian top model named Ruslana Korshinova, in 2008 fell or flew out of the window of her apartment in Manhattan without a suicide note. Moreover, before that, under her window, she cut through the protective barrier. Otherwise, you can't fall out. It's that thick one that's impossible to cut. If you, God forbid, fall out the window, you'll land on this grate, which can support even 2 healthy people. So she cut it, and then completely by accident fell out of the window, but landed quite far from the house, and no one could understand how, after squeezing through that hole, she could have fallen so far from the house. But they still decided it was a suicide. I think the police department also likes money, especially when there's enough of it. You know, when you find a wallet on the street with money in it, I've read there's usually some missing. But when it's turned into the police, the full amount is always there. So Ruslana, the experienced Epstein on the island, they called her that because of her long, beautiful hair. Russian, how do you say it? Rapunzel? Yeah, I think there was a cartoon like that, Rapunzel with the long braid, and suddenly there's more and more around Epstein. So bodies and suicides are piling up, and it really starts to feel like things are getting worse. The circle around Bill and Hillary Clinton, being their friend, is more dangerous than training rattlesnakes. So what do the Clintons have to do with this? It seems they were covering for Epstein and all his activities, and they knew a lot more than they're saying. And that's something I'm personally absolutely and completely sure of. They knew much more than they're saying. Ghislaine will definitely be asked about Gates's venereal disease, you know, the one mentioned in the files, recently published in the new Epstein files. What kind of venereal disease is it? Who did he get it from? Did he pass it on to his wife Melinda, who it seems partly divorced him because of this? Where did this or that girl come from? There are possible connections with the Federal Security Service. Yes, in the records, well, they call them diaries there, and there are emails to himself. Epstein was told that Gates allegedly caught an infection after having sex with Russian girls. That is, he himself didn't know with which one, so to speak, Russian girl, with a Russian, but there was more than one Russian girl. And he asked for antibiotics. Gates allegedly also asked to have emails about this removed from the internet and so on. And he asked if it was possible to give antibiotics to his wife Melinda, Gates's wife, but so that she wouldn't find out. I know it sounds strange. She refused to confirm this, but she also didn't deny it. She said she was happy to be far away from all this mess, but she didn't really explain what she meant. Earlier, Melinda had already said that knowing about her husband's communication with Epstein was one of the key factors in their divorce. Knowing that Bill communicated with Jeffrey, or knowing that Bill did something that Jeffrey was directly involved in. I think the divorce documents say that Melinda will get X billions of dollars, but she is required to keep her mouth shut, and if she starts talking, she could lose either all of it or a significant part. This is a standard agreement in scandalous divorces when the man is very, very, very rich. Let me remind you that Bill Gates started meeting with Jeffrey in 2011 after Epstein had already been accused. and it was proven that he was involved in the abuse of minors and supplying young girls to powerful people. Afterward, Bill Gates became friends with Jeffrey. Maybe that's why, but we don't know. Bill had other affairs and connections too. For example, he slept with a Microsoft employee, which, so to speak, came to light. There was some hush-hush about it. A scandal broke out, but it didn't lead to a divorce. But Epstein and his girls, well, that did. I wonder, was Ruslana Korshunova, the one with the braid who fell out of the window, one of them or the one? No? 1 second, she jumped out the window, fell, was thrown, I don't know. In 2008 and Gates in 2011, right? And it started in 2013. So no, there's no connection. She doesn't have her anymore, so to speak. A friend just like her, windows there, or someone else. Well, then another beauty, so that this beauty doesn't fall out there, or fall, or get hit by a train or a bus. Like the one in Australia, what's her name? Virginia Giuffre. Yeah, well, like I said, the number of bodies around all these guys just keeps growing and growing.
This was clearly a Democratic scandal of the deepest kind from day one, and the only president who should be in the spotlight is damn Bill Clinton. They were desperate to link everything to Donald Trump, wanting Trump and Epstein to be synonymous in the public mind. Well, yeah, let's just say it didn't work out very well for them. And now you could say that it's officially backfired on them as the pressure is mounting on the Democrats and their favorite cultural figures. Bill Gates and Reid Hoffman are now officially on the defensive. They're in a complete panic.
Even Democratic donors are panicking. Well, it turns out not all the evidence was destroyed, that for 4 years the FBI was in charge, the Democrats were running the FBI, but even that they couldn't do well, couldn't do it properly. No. Apparently,
Jeff wrote himself an email. This email was never sent. This email, well, is fake, so I don't know what he was thinking.
it's like Epstein wrote it in his own journal and he didn't send it to me. Well, and by the way, here's Melinda.
The emails in the files indicate that Bill Gates had additional affairs and that he tried to get medicine for a venereal disease and that he was going to give you this medicine without your knowledge.
His spokesperson stated that none of this is true. You don't have to respond to the details of this alleged behavior. But I'm curious, what is your main emotion when you read these news articles with such details?
Sadness. It's just incredible sadness, incredible sadness. Yes, and again, I can take my own sadness and look at these young girls and say, oh my God, how did they manage?
How did it work out for the girls? For ages, young maidens have wanted money, and there were always some who, whether lucky or unlucky, married old men, or became kept women, or just did side jobs. What's so new or tragic about that? You give me money, I give you... you give me what I want, I give you what you want, everything's normal. From my point of view, maybe I'm wrong, yeah, but didn't you know your husband was always having affairs on the side? Somehow she didn't know, so to speak. Everyone knew. She didn't know because she plugged her ears, closed her eyes, and even her nose, so that the stench of Bill, reeking of girls, wouldn't be confirmed in any way. She shouldn't have said, I'm filing for divorce. Yeah. I think Bill, in this case, with those girls, with Epstein, with Russia, it was convenient. And with the illness, he found himself in a situation where he couldn't resist. And that's why he gave in. I'll say the number now. $70 billion. If it weren't for this scandal, she would have gotten it. Well, $1 billion there isn't bad either. Yeah, maybe 2, but here the opportunity came up to grab more and she took it. So how is she different from young girls? Only by the amounts, yeah. She grabbed $70 billion and they get about $2,000 a night. I don't know. I haven't checked. Maybe the prices have changed recently.
I left my marriage. I had to leave my marriage. I wanted to leave my marriage. I had to leave it. I felt like I had to leave that foundation. So it's just sad.
Reid Hoffman is another participant. So the one who, well, gave a lot of money, who did he give it to? To Kamara. Recently he gave, yes, I don't remember how much, 26 million he donated to her election campaign. And we all strongly suspect that the Democrats had all sorts of documents showing that he was also involved, and that's why they showed him those documents. He quickly asked, how much money do you need? Yes, and he gave 26 million, and I think he also gave 7 million to Biden-Harris. That was before. And before that, he gave another 9 million just to the Democratic Party for holding fair elections. They always say fair, which means they're lying. Yes, about the elections in the states. And now he says if they supposedly find documents about me, supposedly evidence, that's Trump not taking revenge, just as an excuse. And supposedly he donated to both sides. He gave money to the Republicans, so he gave them in total about 42 million, and he also gave the Republicans about $450,000. And this shows that he's on both sides, so to speak. He's for fair elections, right? So 98% to the Democrats, 2% to the Republicans. He says, Rit, I knew Jeffrey through charity work, but otherwise, no. Do you like tomatoes? Well, I like to eat them, but otherwise not at all. So that's how he is himself. Reid Hoffman is nervous. By the way, just so you know, that's the creator of LinkedIn. A serious person.
And if Trump is elected president, I'll be punished. So I just won't get involved in this. And you think they'll punish you? I think there's more than a 50% chance that there will be consequences because of the improper use and corruption of government institutions. Thank you for acknowledging my efforts to help Harris get elected.
So, not because he was with young and happily consenting girls, but because he gave Harris money. Thank you.
I think I would probably win the bet with confidence that there will be political consequences that are essentially undemocratic, un-American, and directed straight at me.
In other words, this person spent many millions of dollars to attack and destroy President Trump. Many people don't know, but he was the one who financed the entire defamatory lawsuit by Jean Carroll against the president. I don't know. Again, most of this just doesn't make any sense. And this whole premise that the left has been pushing, and Reid Hoffman, it seems, he keeps pointing the finger at President Trump as well. They keep saying Donald Trump was Jeffrey Epstein's accomplice, but there isn't a single email from Epstein's files that established any connection between Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein.
But Reid and Jeffrey seem to be buddies, and they were doing something together. Well, guess what it was? Here's an email from Reid to Jeffrey about gifts from Jeffrey.
Sending messages to Jeffrey Epstein about gifts and ice cream for the girls, and then something that might amuse him for the island, ice cream for the girls. And this is from Jeffrey Epstein to Reid Hoffman, where he writes, "All right, come to Island Ranch, let's play." Yeah, it just doesn't add up right now. Isn't that dismissive language? Huh? He only knew him for fundraising.
But could it be that Jeffrey is still alive?
That's Epstein, isn't it? Listen, who is this guy anyway?
And that's Benny Johnson, someone very close to the Trump family, a figure and I would say a spokesperson for the thoughts and aspirations of Make America Great Again.
Hi, this is Benny. Conspiracy theorists are now riding a legendary and epical wave. It's hard to imagine what hasn't come true after millions of Epstein files were released, even the idea that Jeffrey Epstein is alive. This is a photo of Jeffrey Epstein, alive and under witness protection. You can see guys with headsets next to him in Tel Aviv, and he looks a lot like Jeffrey Epstein. This photo is spreading like wildfire across the internet, and It also kind of matches and echoes some other photos we've seen. For example, this one taken by a drone flying over Epstein's island after his death, where it seems like Jeffrey Epstein is talking to one of his gardeners or overseers. There have been many theories that Jeffrey Epstein didn't actually die in the Metropolitan Jail, and that's because some prison guards who were inside that facility directly stated, no, Jeffrey Epstein faked his death. And at this point, I'll just say outright that conspiracy theorists have been right so often that I'm not going to rule anything out. Today, we'll discuss new photos of Jeffrey Epstein in Tel Aviv and why some believe he's still alive.
There are a few possibilities. It's someone who looks like him, or it's fake, Photoshop, or artificial intelligence. Or yes, it's Jeffrey. He's in the witness protection program and has been sent out of sight until the moment he's needed in Israel and will appear when the huge trial against the Democratic Party begins.
These images have been around for a while. People claim it's a different nose and ears, that the body was switched and Jeffrey Epstein is in witness protection. And of course, all the cameras were turned off in the prison, because naturally, of course, why wouldn't all the cameras be turned off in a prison and still nothing can be seen? But is that even possible? Yesterday, it became known that the federal government reported an orange spot, apparently going up the stairs of level L. Maybe the inmate, according to the FBI's own analysis and video recordings. But Bill Barr told us that no one entered or left that block, and that this proves that Jeffrey Epstein must have committed suicide. Not at all. Listen, here's the thing.
The report states that someone, likely Noel, is carrying bedding or clothes upstairs. This is one of the few instances where the video footage captures movement on the stairs, but it's barely visible. Let's watch it again, zooming in and slowing it down. Several forensic video experts concluded in the report that the video might have shown an inmate going up the stairs. Authorities say no one approached his cell again until his body was found the next morning. Again, while the videos do not contradict this, experts who reviewed the footage say that the limited field of view does not allow them to definitively conclude that no one used the stairs during that period of time.
Yes, in general, you can see here that the Inspector General also found that the orange flash was going up the L-level stairs. Again, this alone makes Bill Barr a liar and turns the official investigation into a farce.
Well, so does that mean it's clear why Pam Bandy came to a sudden stop? Why did Dan Bongino suddenly say, yes, of course? Epstein killed himself. He killed himself. I definitely have proof. Earlier, he insisted, come on, guys, that's ridiculous. It couldn't have happened. And then suddenly, oops. Well, it's clear that the matter is extremely murky, but we'll see for today. I personally believe that Jeffrey is alive. Before, I kind of had two options in my head. Either he was killed or he committed suicide, and I was, 99% sure that he was killed. But I didn't know, I didn't even imagine that there was another option, that he could have been taken out of what is called the most secure prison in America. That is, they took him away before the trial, out of sight, under the witness protection program. So the measures usually taken under this program are protection, relocation, changing documents, and ensuring confidentiality. Sometimes there are changes in appearances, and the decision to apply such a program is made by the head of the investigative body handling the case. In our case, due to its high-profile nature, the United States Attorney General at the time, Bill, was involved. So if he was lying like that, then maybe it was to protect the witness. We don't know. He was definitely lying, no doubt about it. It was obvious. You could see it. You could hear it. But why was he lying? Suddenly we get some interesting new details.
And if you bring in all the bedding, well, we've always talked about this, why is there so much bedding in Jeffrey Epstein's cell? Look at all of it. Is that really how someone on suicide watch is treated? By the way, they never found the noose. They never identified the noose. All those sheets, did they bring someone in with a basket or take someone out? You know, a lot of people have asked about that. So, is Jeffrey Epstein alive? That's the question. After all, as you can see for yourself, just by doing a quick post or search, this photo is everywhere. It literally went all over the internet. Isn't that right? Jeffrey Epstein, bearded with long hair, walking the streets of Israel. Obviously, the reason why it would be Israel is because Jeffrey Epstein was constantly traveling to Israel. He was friends with Bibi Netanyahu and with many other Israeli officials. And also, Robert Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell's father, was buried with state honors. He died in Israel. A lot of strange things are happening there. By the way, that's worth noting. It intrigued me. I looked at it and said, wow.
I say wow too. How about you?